It is Saturday, March the 1st. I'm Chris, and this is the future of photography.
The future of photography.
Hi, Adrian. How are you doing today?
I am okay, thank you. Yes. It started to get sunny here in the UK, which is spring is possibly my favourite time of year. It's a bit too early on the 1st of March to say that it's springtime here, but it's still cold, but it's sunny and pleasant, and there's a bit of warmth in the sun. So, I'm going to take the good times while I can. How are you?
I wasn't even outside today. I'm okay. I'm okay. And we are missing Jeremiah. He is traveling right now. I think he has an exhibition coming up. So yeah, it's the two of us again, and we have something that I've already talked about on the Happy Shooting podcast here in Germany, but I found it so interesting, I thought we'd have to bring it over here. Of course, we will talk about the Sigma BF, which everyone's talking about right now.
Yes, I think very, very interesting. Because we say, don't we, that cameras don't change very much from release to release and stuff like that. And we're, no doubt there'll be lots of voices on the internet complaining about things this camera doesn't have and must have. But you know what? It's a bit different, and trust Sigma, of course, to bring out a camera that's a bit different.
That's pretty much what they have done in a while. We remember the FP and its follow-up, the FP something. So, which was this tiny, small, ergonomically difficult camera, but it definitely got its following. So the reason I wanted to talk about it is not just because it's a new camera, but because I think it goes along with the trend that we're seeing right now, and it's a trend towards simpler cameras. I remember years ago on a workshop, I gave everyone a box camera, like a medium format box camera that shoots like 8 pictures on one roll of film. And people were completely confused at first, and later on they loved it because it took all the camera-ness out of it. Right? You have a shutter button, and that is it.
Yes.
And the Sigma BF feels a bit like a box camera from that respect, from that point of view, because it is. If you haven't seen it, let me just bring a video by Gordon Lang on the screen so you can have a look while we talk. They call it radically minimalist, right? So they have taken a lot of things out, even though there's a lot of things in the camera. And we're seeing this trend in general towards simpler cameras, at least among a certain clientele, a certain age group.
I can get with that. The people, because I both agree with you and disagree with you, because I love a simple camera, and I am of the age group that would normally be targeted, fully functional, lots of computerized stuff. So, but it is definitely appealing to a certain group or a certain type of photographer. Let's say, not group, a type of photographer.
A type, but also an age group, but not this camera. So this is getting complicated. But what we're seeing is like Gen Z, for example, they have this trend towards digicams from 2005, old used cameras, because they are simple, they are dedicated cameras. They are not the smartphones that make it virtually impossible for you to take a bad picture. All pictures that come out of a smartphone are technically good pictures.
And this is I feel sorry for Gen Z. Get a lot of flack, don't they? But the poor generation, they never grew up with cameras. They grew up with phones, right? So they've never had to learn the technical aspects of photography like we had to do. True. But maybe they're now, maybe they, in their quest for creativity and wanting dedicated cameras because they're cool, and also because they take different types of photos than a phone. How do you get them? Can you give them a fully complicated computerized DSLR or mirrorless camera, and they go, there you go, there's 70,000 pages of menus, there's 5 buttons, but none of them are marked because your camera is ultimately programmable and customizable? That must be a bit of a daunting learning curve if you've grown up with smartphones rather than film cameras, right?
I have one more aspect why Gen Z, I think, is gravitating away from smartphones as cameras. And that is, a smartphone has a lot of connotations with it. That box brings you the world. That box is your life in many respects. And that box also brings you a lot of anxiety when you look at news and social media and things. And if you have a dedicated machine to take pictures with, that makes the whole photography a very, let's say, mindful task. A task that you're only doing that while you shoot. You're not getting any notifications. You're not reminded that of all the negativity that you might connect with that box in some way. And so I think it's a mindfulness exercise, pretty much. So there is this anti-smartphone rebellion, and the move towards less clutter, more concentration on things and photography benefits from that. Certainly does.
Definitely. I think. Do you know what though? I think there is an age or generational aspect to the specifications of this camera, particularly the things that they've removed. I won't share my own prejudices just yet. I'll wait till we get to that part of the conversation.
Well, and that's where the Sigma SFB kind of that's where it gets a bit away from us, because I wouldn't say that a $2,000 camera, just the body, is within reach of a lot of people.
Good point.
So a used 2005 Digicam, sure. Even though they're getting more expensive.
They are. You can pay a couple $100 for one of those now, which is ridiculous.
True,
I got one in the drawer.
So I think this whole wave is moving into other into other demographics. Other people are.
With the Sigma FP, if I recall correctly, because I don't think I've ever handled one, that was configured to be a really good video camera, wasn't it, rather than a photography camera? And a plain square box for a video camera kind of makes a bunch of sense. Whatever scale it is, you could have a red camera, right? And those are boxes too, because you're rigging these things up. The whole point is that the camera body sits within a rig that is ultimately customizable to what you need for what you're shooting. With photography,
that's not what we're talking about here. Yeah, that's not what we're talking about here, right?
No. Well, I don't think there's any. Well, it'd be pretty hard to rig this camera up, wouldn't it? Because I think there's only one tripod mount, and that's it.
Do you need any more? So let's talk about this again. Radically minimalist, still quite powerful. There's a lot of in it. From the outside, we're talking about just 4 buttons and 1 dial and 2 displays on the back. One like the bigger display to compose on. We'll get to that later, and a small status display that is above the dial, and the body is machined aluminium, pretty much. I would guess if Apple made a camera, that would probably look similar to that. Right? It's very, very boiled down, very distraction free.
Little bit reminiscent of when Leica did the same thing, because they did that. Was it the T series of Leicas?
I think so.
That were machined out of a block of aluminium as well. But yeah. Interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
So it's compact. It's relatively light. I think 440 grams without a lens, but with the battery, and it comes in black and silver. That's pretty much it. It has a full frame sensor, so image quality wise, I think there's nothing left out. You get 8 frames per second with that sensor, 24 megapixels. That's decent.
Mm-hmm.
L mount. We'll get to that later too. It has an electronic shutter only. So no mechanical shutter there. It does offer a crop mode, 1.5 crop mode. So it will shoot a smaller fewer megapixel image, but with a full pixel count, or with a crop pixel count, but not with any interpolation. Doesn't have a card slot. Talking simplicity here. It has built-in 230 gigabytes of memory. And
okay, that's probably enough for a day's shooting for anybody, isn't it?
Yeah, unless you shoot a lot of video, but it does shoot video. Again, we'll get to that later. But it doesn't have a optical viewfinder or an electronic viewfinder. So Jeremiah asked us remotely while on the plane. He sent us a message. If you talk about the BF, make sure you tell him that I hate that it doesn't have an electronic viewfinder or a viewfinder at all.
So it's not just that, is it? Sadly, there's no hot shoe either, so you can't even attach an external viewfinder of any kind.
I'm not sure, because it also doesn't have a microphone or headphone jack, but those can be supplemented using the built-in, the one and single port that it has, which is a USB-C port. So we are looking at a potential to augment things, and it does have a tripod mount, so maybe you can connect something like a little cage with a viewfinder that gets fed through the USB-C port. That's just guesswork. That's just speculation. But possibly. Well,
it is a beautiful thing, though. It would seem a shame to put it in a cage because it's such a beautiful thing, isn't it? But I think I'd probably be a bit scared to, because it would be great to carry it around in your pocket, but I'd be worried it gets scratched. It's such a lovely looking thing, It's like with my old cameras, I don't care. I buy cameras for as cheap as I possibly can and then throw them in a pocket or a bag or wherever, and I don't really care what happens to them. This one is beautiful, though.
The thing I heard in some of the reviews is that ergonomically it's actually very, very good in your hand. It does have a few accommodations, like the cut-off corner at the right bottom, so that sits in your palm. It has a thumb rest at the right top, so it's supposedly easy to use. That was one of the big points of critique with the FP. People didn't know how to hold it. It wasn't really lending itself to being handheld. Petapixel calls it weird, but in a good way. Topographer says the menu is refreshing, so they put a lot of work in the menu system and went away from the lists over lists into more of a picture kind of thing. But it seems quite focused on the task at hand. And others talk about the industrial design, which is, I'm a fan of the design. I like it.
Yeah.
The simplicity, the visual simplicity, the clutter, the unclutteredness of it is great. Yeah.
Definitely.
But then,
definitely,
of course, the question is who's the target audience? Who is it for?
Well, first of all, you've already mentioned the price, I think. So first of all, it's for people that have got a few extra pennies. Because it probably isn't going to be your only camera, is it, for many people? Because it's that stripped down. It feels like a walking around camera or a street photography camera or something like that. Is if you are ever needing to trigger external lighting, or if you're ever needing a viewfinder for precision composition and stuff like that, or then perhaps this is your extra camera, which does make it quite a luxury purchase.
Remember the display loops that you would stick on the back of a DSLR to use it more as a video camera? You could put one of those in. It would look weird. would kill the looks of the camera. But anyway, so obviously design fans, people with disposable income, absolutely. But I think they might also be targeting the Leica crowd because of the simplicity of the and the L mount. I remember being on a workshop with a photographer who brought his Leica M11, I think, or M10. And the year before, I was on another workshop with him, and he had the whole Canon gear with long lenses and stuff. And he got to a point where he just didn't want to deal with all that stuff anymore, and he sold his entire Canon system and switched over to Leica, and that was his camera. Don't even remember, maybe 35 millimeter lens on it, and that was it. So,
interesting. Yeah, I'm always tempted to do that. I've had times in the past where I've simplified and sold off lots of cameras and stuff like that. Make sure they go to good homes, of course. But it can be refreshing to do that and have a change. It can be inspirational creatively. And sometimes you just don't want to carry around that much stuff anymore, right? It's just like
that's true as well. Of course. I mean, I probably wouldn't use this as a camera for wildlife photography or anything specialized. But then, on the other hand, I haven't really seen any results from it, and I'm kind of curious how this will be received in the market. Probably not a mainstream camera. I mean, it does have its niche, I guess.
Well, Sigma as a camera manufacturer have never really gone for mass volume of sales, have they? They've always done something that's slightly out of the ordinary. I'd struggle to think of a genuinely normal Sigma camera. They may have done, but like.
So the Petapixel guys actually did an interview with Kazuto Yamaki, the CEO of Sigma, and that was quite revealing, quite interesting. Because yes, he's not interested in making a camera that competes with a Canon something or a Nikon something. He's also a fan of prime lenses, which is why this camera also is released alongside 9 new L-mount lenses by Sigma.
Which is that was crazy. All of
and
those
all
new
primes.
Yeah, and all of them fast as well. So it's fast enough. Anyway,
17, 20, 24, 35, 45, 50, 65, 90 at anywhere f2, f3.5, f2.8.
Crazy. Yeah.
And then they asked him where the name comes from. What does BF stand for? And he answered. It stands for beautiful foolishness.
Well, do you know what? They've got the beautiful bit right. I won't comment on whether or not it's foolish because I haven't handled one, so I don't know whether it fit or how it handles, and also we don't know how it's going to sell. So maybe it is foolish. I don't know.
Well, he also put that in context. It's from it's a Japanese cultural reference of a book that is like over 100 years old about the Japanese tea ceremony, and it's something in there is called let's enjoy this tea and the beautiful foolishness that comes with it or something. So
I see. Okay. Right.
So it has a bit of a different meaning. But yeah, this camera is not trying to compete with any of the bigger ones on at least the number of buttons and the snazziness and stuff. This is its very own thing.
Yes, yeah. So we should probably swap opinions on this camera, right? So you've done a good job in describing it of not showing any particular bias for things, right? Yeah. But I think it's a camera that deserves some comment, right? Let's show respect to the personality of the comment by putting some of our personality into this conversation. So. I'm going to start, with lots of positives, or one or two anyway. I won't give them all at once. I think this is a beautiful thing. I love the ideas behind it. I love the simplicity of it, that it's very focused on photography. And I do love the industrial design. So yeah, I could definitely see myself being a very happy owner of this camera. I think I'm not sure that I will be, because I'm not looking for buying cameras at the moment. But it is a good looking thing, and I'm even going to go out there and say, although I love to shoot with various different lighting systems, I don't think I would miss a hot shoe on this camera. I have other cameras that if I need to put flash triggers in a hot shoe and have a whole lighting array done. So I don't think it would be, that is in no way a showstopper for me to not have a standard hot shoe. I have other cameras that don't have standard hot shoes, like my Nikon One system cameras. They don't have a standard hot shoe either. So I think there's it's a lovely little thing. That's what I'll say first. What's your first commentary on it?
It has a big I want this factor for me. it really clicks with my design sensibilities, and with the fact that, I mean, I love the simplification. This thing does have shooting modes, so it's not that it doesn't have a manual mode or an aperture priority mode. It's just a bit more under the wraps. So I kind of want it, but of course I'm probably not going to buy it because it is expensive. It does, and it would require me to stock up on at least 3 to 4 lenses. But I wouldn't mind, I don't know, getting one for a week or two and just playing with it and seeing what it's all about. It is intriguing. It's very intriguing. And it's not just the beauty. It's a full frame. It's what I grew up on, 35mm format. It's simple, and I kind of like simple. That's one of the reasons I do this box camera experiment in some of the workshops. That's why I enjoy a lot of the analog side of photography, because it takes a lot of the clutter out. It allows you to concentrate on photography more and less on the tech side. Yeah. And I'm a techie at heart, but when I shoot, I don't want to deal with that necessarily.
Fair point. Yeah, that sounds all good for me. So I have got a couple of things that I would miss from it, though, I think. And it's kind of an either or, right? For the first one, which is, and it's Jeremiah's comment, it's the EVF, right? And it could be an optical viewfinder for me, but the lack of the ability to put it to your eye is a challenge for me. That is my preferred way of shooting. Perhaps a compromise permission would be a tilting screen, so that you could use the rear screen akin to a waist level finder.
Oh yeah, it's fixed. This screen is fixed. We didn't mention that.
It's a fixed screen, but yeah, I can see why, from an industrial design point of view, the screen must be fixed, right? Because it is a very thin camera from back to front, and and it is machined from one block of aluminium, as per the video you're currently showing on the screen. So yeah, I can understand why, as a design choice, you wouldn't make that a movable screen. Now, that in some ways is no different to my one of my favorite cameras, the Olympus Tough camera family, which have no viewfinder, no way to add a viewfinder, and are fixed. But those are, that camera, I don't mind if I throw it in the same pocket as my car keys or whatever. Actually, who am I kidding? I don't have car keys, but house keys. So it's, if you accidentally put the Olympus Tough camera in the same pocket as your keys, then it doesn't
that
bother
it
me in the
damages your
slightest.
keys.
Yeah. Then my keys get a good shoeing. Yeah, they get beaten up. Yeah, but this camera, I would be. I don't know. I'd want to make sure I had a special pocket in my coat and nothing else went in that coat, and it was fur lined or something, right? Or lined with micro fleece or something like that to keep it special. So
I don't know.
no.
I don't know. The objects that I use on a daily basis, I don't mind them getting scars and marks of them being used. So it's a bit like I remember Apple when they brought out that first the iPod with the steel back, the shiny steel back
The
that
shiny
would
steel
scratch
back. Yeah,
so
yeah.
easily and
Mm-hmm.
so on. And people would actually like this because it kind of had a history. It built its own history over time.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's
and another area where the whole advertising that they do, we have it on the screen here in the video right now, is also the manufacturing of it, which they do carve it from a solid block of aluminium. They show behind the scenes information here, the whole unibody cage having been milled on a 3D lathe. I think they said that the milling process is like 6 hours long. So
wow. Okay.
it's so and that clicks with my maker sensibility. I do find myself every now and then watching a maker video, someone using a lathe, and this yeah, it shows how the sausage is made. So don't think I would miss an electronic viewfinder. I grew up with optical viewfinders. I still use DSLRs with optical viewfinders. Of course, all my film cameras have optical viewfinders. Some don't. Some have sports viewfinders, which is just a little piece of wire, pretty much. And when I shoot with a phone, I do not have a viewfinder to look through. I have a screen to compose on. So I think I have two different photography modes that I've learned to seamlessly switch back and forth on. So one is the smartphone / screen composition. The other is looking through the viewfinder. And initially, a couple years ago, I would have said, "Oh yeah, no viewfinder is a deal breaker for me." I think that has changed. I think it's different now.
Interesting. I could go without it, but for something of this level of financial commitment, it makes me think twice. But moving beyond that, though, I think we're talking about the camera body here, right? And the camera body is something very special, right? Isn't it? Yeah, it really is. I think part of the success of this for me, if I were to have one, would be the pairing with the lens, right? So, I think it's a camera body and a style of camera body that would pair well for me with quite small lenses, particularly pancake lenses, if you can get them of sufficient quality. So I've been having a little bit of a look at what the lenses are that are available on L-mount that would be, in my mind, small enough to make this a properly pocketable camera. And you've called up the first one there, which is by far the smallest that I could find, which is the Panasonic 26mm f8 pancake lens. That would definitely make for a very slim overall package. And the simplicity of having an f8 lens, would mean it takes another parameter out of the equation, right? So, I think it's on message philosophically, with the Sigma BF, in that, it's removing some of the things you have to consider. F8 is a fantastic aperture on a full frame camera, right? It gives you, I mean, they don't say F8 and be there for nothing, do they?
True, very true.
So that's one. Next one, the third party of all third parties almost. Seven Artisans have an L-mount lens, which they call the 35mm f5.6 pancake, That's an interesting choice. I'm not sure I'd agree that it was particularly a pancake lens, but it's certainly not a fat lens. It doesn't protrude, I don't think, in the photos. Yeah, no, it doesn't protrude any further than the hand grip on the Sony camera that it's shown photographed with. But of course, the Sigma BF doesn't have a hand grip. But I'm not going to be churlish. I have the 27 millimeter Fuji pancake lens, so-called pancake lens, and that's similar to this. So, and I think this would be a really good one. I think because if you think about this, if this is a 35mm lens, but the camera allows you to crop in on a 1.5 factor, that means you've got effectively 35mm and 50mm. But you're losing some megapixels, of course. Yes.
But who needs megapixels?
I think there is. I mean, I think it has sufficient, right? So if it crops down to 16 megapixels, rarely are you going to print bigger than needing 16 megapixels, and certainly you don't need any more than that for digital use cases. And as Jeremiah is so fond of reminding us, there are lots and lots of good technologies for up-resing photos, and I know he has the Topaz one as one of his favourites. So there's a good choice. I had another interesting one from a company who's I'm never confident in the pronunciation, but Lauer. They have a teeny 10mm lens, which I guess is going to be a bit of a special lens because 10mm is pretty wide.
So you know what I have this what is it, Russian Industar lens, 50mm.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Which is on an adapter ring for an EF mount, and it looks very similar from a form factor, right? It's also this tiny pancake kind of thing. Just reminding me of that.
Interesting, yeah. So there's that one, and then two from one of the other L mount partners, Leica. So this is interesting. So the Summicron 23mm. That could be an interesting one. That gives you a wide angle, and then if you punch in 23 becomes 35, doesn't it? So if you prefer a slightly wider view of things, that could be a really interesting lens. Definitely something going on there. Hang on a minute. Unless that's not an APS-C lens, is it?
No, it's an spherical lens.
Is that what?
L?
Because it's shown on a camera, I think that has a crop sensor. Have I made a mistake there?
It says L mount here.
It says L mount. I don't know if L mount do ones that are only for crop sensors, but I guess not. And then last but not least, there was another interesting one, which was an Elmarit 18 millimeter lens, which looked interesting as well. So fair few. There's a few, I think.
There's your pancakeness.
Yeah. But it's 18mm again is not going to be for everybody, is it, at that level? But again, shown on a crop sensor camera, so I'm a bit worried now that I'm calling out a couple of lenses that might be L mount but might be crop sensor lenses. But
these
there we go.
do come with a price tag, of course. But yes. if you have $2,000 lying around, then that might not be a big issue for you.
So I think there's plenty around here, plenty to see, right? That would go really, really well. And interesting lenses that might be as interesting as the camera itself.
And L mount, I had to look up where is L mount right now, because it was introduced a few years ago by Leica and Panasonic, and Sigma has completely jumped on it. Leica has 15 L mount lenses.
That's pretty good.
Panasonic has 10 L mount lenses. Sigma has had over 14 L mount lenses, now plus 9 new ones. So we are at least at 45 or more lenses here, which is quite a sizable collection.
That's
from
a good
different
choice.
Manufacturers as well.
Yeah. And the cool. Sigma launched a bunch of really big lenses at the same event, didn't they?
Yes.
Or a couple of big, and I guess those are L mount ones as well, are they? Or are they not?
No.
Are they not?
The big 300 to 600 is, I think, E mount, and
okay, never mind. Okay.
One other one. But yeah, so it is an interesting camera, and if I had a bit more guts, and if I had the disposable income to come with it, this might be one that I would seriously consider.
It is a lovely.
I still have to play with it first.
Yeah,
I have to get my hands on one first, but
yeah, definitely.
So maybe it's the Leica for the rest of us, Possibly.
Well, it's priced like I suppose it's not actually priced like a proper Leica, is it? So
no, it's not. It's not.
It's half the price of an actual Leica. So.
So anyway, we'll see. It will be officially out in April, I think. Price in Europe, at least here in Germany, I think it's not officially announced, but it will likely be in the 2,300 euros range. And I don't know what that's in pounds, but somewhere around that.
A bit less, £2,000, something like that.
Yeah. So the Leica, not the Leica, the Sigma BF, the beautiful foolishness. Yeah, ticks a lot of my
gets
boxes.
my vote. I like this one.
at least the introduction. Still don't know how it will be in real hands and in real everyday situations.
There's no bad cameras these days, are there? It's just so I'm happy to be positive about this one.
Yeah, me too. So there we go. Your Sigma BF.
Shall we have some picks of the week then?
Yes, I would love to. Let me just I'll bring up mine first. And it is a photo. Now, have I ever talked about Don Pettit?
It's a name I recognize.
He's Canadian. He is right now on the ISS. He's an astronaut. He is a photographer, and he has been up there several times. I think he's around 70, so he's also not a young whippersnapper. And he was the original, from my point of view, the original public outreach Twitterer astronaut before NASA gave everyone a Twitter account and made them be more public about what they do. And so he kind of, at least in my understanding, he started that. He shared photos. He talked in public on YouTube and other channels about what he does up there, and relate stories, and lots of outreach from him in the photography sense. And he's also the one who brought a homemade tracker with him. A star tracker that you would put on a tripod on Earth to counter the rotation of the Earth. To take long exposures of the sky. Now, up on the ISS, you need one that has a different timing, because you rotate around the Earth every 90 minutes. So you have a bit of a faster day, and you need a different kind of thing. And he built one and privately brought it up there. Not even like officially on an official assignment. He brought it up there, and he took some really breathtaking photos. And one photo he took in 2012, he called lightning bugs, which is a long exposure from up there off the Earth, off the rotating stars, and of lightning down there. And this is the original photo, the original lightning bugs photo that he took. So we see the Earth.
Amazing to think that that's an actual photograph is amazing, isn't it?
We see the atmosphere. We see streaks of light on the Earth, as in cities zipping by. No, I'm not talking to you, Siri. She's a bit too attentive behind me there. There's again the rotation of the stars and all the lightning specks, and what he did now is he kind of retook that photo just now in a kind of a different form. Star trail, time exposure. So you get the star trails from the orbit of the ISS. This is just a 30-minute photo during the orbital night, and he took multiple photos of that. And it's a new kind of lightning bugs photo, which even has a part of the ISS in it. It's just amazing. If you can track down a few interviews with him online, he's been doing several photography-related interviews from the cupola in the ISS with different YouTubers over the last month, probably. He's cool. He's a cool dude.
He is,
and
definitely.
He's a good photographer, and he just helped make this much more public. So, yeah.
Good stuff.
And you brought us a show.
Well, I brought you the reason I'm not going to be here next weekend to record. So next weekend is my annual trip to the photography and video show this year in London, as I've probably mentioned before, rather than in Birmingham in the UK. And it promises to be, I think, probably bigger than ever. The venue that it's in is a venue called Excel, which is in the East End of London in the Docklands, and it's an enormous venue. Funnily enough, it's the place I went to just 2 weeks ago when I also wasn't here when I took my son to the Pokemon Championship, so I'm going back 2 weeks later. But there you go. I was listening to on the Sunny 16 podcast, which longer time listeners will remember that I used to do. We often had a chat with the marketing and promotional team, or the organising team of the show every year, and actually they have one this year as well. So a lady called Ruth from that team had a fantastic conversation with Claire and Rachel from Sunny 16, all about what's going to be happening in the show this year. Loads and loads of stuff going on. They've got some changes this year. It's a smidge extra to get in, but all of the talks are free now. And I think one of the things they'll get in the bigger venue is they'll have the opportunity to have bigger theatres and talks. So if you're interested in the content of these things, as well as the kit and the chance to play with kit, then it'll be much easier to access all of the great presentations and stuff this year than it's been in the past, and all within the ticket price. So you can get what I would argue you have the opportunity to get much better value for money, even though you are paying slightly more, and it's literally only about £5 more or something like that. It's not a lot more money, so there's a lot on offer here this year. They've been building over the last few years steadily their creator zone, lots and lots of funny little part sets that you can do your own photography in and stuff like that. There will of course be the opportunity to play with lots and lots of cameras and lenses. I will be absolutely looking out for the Sigma BF, although I imagine if there will be a pre-prod version in a locked glass box or something like that. So I don't think I'll get my hands on it next week, but you never know. I'll certainly look out for it, and all sorts of other stuff going. And also a bunch of my friends in the analog photography world will be there with their so we'll get to go and talk to the Ilford crew about their new film and stuff like that. So
yeah, you have a task to find out if Red is a respooled Phoenix.
I do indeed have that task. It's on my to-do list, Chris. It's right up there.
Say and 250 exhibitors, 500 plus talks and demos, 4 days. Wow, this is the new Photokina, definitely.
It's the modern equivalent of. I never had the chance to go to Photokina, and my understanding of Photokina is that it was a lot bigger than what this is. But this one is getting bigger over time.
It was too big.
This one is getting bigger and bigger over time, right? It started off in one exhibition hall in Birmingham, then it took over 2 exhibition halls, and now it's at the XL in London. They're going back to Birmingham next year, so they haven't left Birmingham for good. But it's you can tell by the energy in my voice, right? I love this weekend every
You're
week,
looking
every
forward
year.
to this.
I am. I get to see a load of my friends that I don't see very often, and I get to go and play with new toys and have a look around and see what's what. So I will definitely be reporting back in 2 weeks on this, but sadly, I won't be around for recording next week because I will be indulging next week in the photography and video show.
And if Jeremiah is still traveling, then we'll just skip a week. And that brings us to the end of our little photography show. You can, of course, join us on our Discord to discuss. You find all the episodes on YouTube. Our photography on TFOP Photos, all the links in the show notes. And like and subscribe and do all the clicky button things while you're here. We'll be back with a brand new episode soon. Until then, everyone, take care and bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to The Future of Photography. Join the discussion on our Discord, find the show notes and all episodes at thefutureofphotography.com, and subscribe wherever you listen to audio.